can run this for multiple iteration. It has the real user activity which can be put under this particular action. So you can even put your login and logout. Yeah, login, logout. It depends on how the script is prepared, created, and what all business transaction you want to cover. So as I have already this is the use of this particular thing. For in action part, you normally keep all the business processes like or the business transaction, critical business transaction, and this can be run for multiple iteration. And when you are performing the real user action like critical business flows, you wanted to consider that run for the and see the TPS or response time for this particular critical business flow rather than considering the other which is not required. And you can even put the login and logout as well. It depends on how the script is created by you. So it's totally depend on you what all things you want to keep in action, what all things you want to keep in edit, and what all things you want to keep in user end. Now user end. And this is the exit function. It also run once. Normally, whatever action was established, we can close it or we can keep logout request. So this is the particular use of the user end. And now we will see run logic, runtime setting, and rendezvous point. Now, what is rendezvous point? I just show you in the script as well. Rendezvous point is the meeting point. Whenever you want to perform any simultaneous operation, like uh, you run the whenever you run any test execution, the users are concurrent and they are parallel. Like they will be active in the application, but they will be performing different. They will be using different modules. Like suppose they have launch, logout, and what is that? Suppose launch, login, logout. This is the concept we have, and we have given a random point as login. So let me open Rendezvous slash meeting point. Okay, so let's consider this is launch, login, and logout. So normally user has to first launch the URL, then login, then logout. So this is the scenario. Launch, login, logout. So let's see. You have user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4, user 5, user 6, user 7. So whenever you start like this all will be whenever you start the execution, they will run in parallel. This, 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 this. They will run in parallel, but it depends on the server, like how fast the each and every user will get a response. Suppose this user got a response in 5.5 millisecond, zero point 0.5 second, it got in 70 seconds, 1 minute, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 70 seconds. This thing you have got, then but your ideal scenario is to run all you want to hit this login feature with all the simultaneous user. So at that particular time what will happen, this user will come at this particular place, it will come in this particular place, and they all will wait until and unless all the users are reaching this meeting point. So you give as a meeting point login, and unless all the users come, it will not allow other users to continue with the flow or continue with the scenario. So whenever you want to test any, you want to hit any particular component in a simultaneous manner, like at that particular concept, we use this rendezvous point. So simultaneously, this all users they will hit this login functionality, and they want to they want to check like this functionality is stable at that particular, like whenever all the simultaneous users hit this particular module. So this is the concept of rendezvous. But now I'll explain you in definition. The point where V users wait for all other V users to arrive and then hit the next transaction simultaneously. Point where all the V users wait for, for the point where all the V users wait for all the V users for all other V users to arrive and then hit the functionality, hit the transaction simultaneously. Here, full traffic is generated on the particular on the login functionality. So hope you guys have a better idea on this particular concept, handover point. And now we'll see other thing, runtime settings. We will see run logic, runtime setting. Okay, you can see this runtime settings, right? Whenever you double click this, a pop-up is opened, or even you have a shortcut key F5, F4. When you click on F4 directly without clicking this runtime settings for double time, so this will be open. And here there are multiple things like run logic, pacing, log. Yesterday I have discussed about pacing, right? Once I start building a script, I will show you this particular concept, like start new iteration, start this all concept. And logs, how can you generate the logs in standard, extended log, parameterized data written by server, advanced written. So these all things. Think time, what is the dynamic think time and what is normal recorded think time, so you can multiply the think time. Even whenever I start telling you the concept like PTLC and all, I will just you'll get a better picture of this particular thing. Even you can add a parameterize here also. You can use a function and then you can fetch that values, what is miscellaneous and what are the uses of this particular things. Each and every terms I'll tell you thoroughly. So browser emulation, that is speed simulation. Uh, so whatever setting you want to give in runtime, that is the use of runtime setting. Like normally, you if you are to run the script in any of this controller, then whatever settings you have given in run logic, pacing, according to it, it will run. It will vary. So if you give the pacing as 60 seconds for each and every iteration, it will take 60 seconds as a pacing. Suppose you give think time, if you give multiply think time 1 into 5, then your think time will be given as 5 seconds. Each for each transaction, it will be 5 seconds. Like there is the concept I will tell. So this is runtime setting. Now this is the run recording option. So even there is multiple things like recording, script, protocols. Like see, we have created we are working on the single protocol, right? Web HTTP/HTML. So code generation, configuration, rules. Like I discussed on the previous class, right? Whenever I was discussing about correlation, here we can create the automatic correlation and advanced mapping and filtering. These all things I'll discuss in very thoroughly. Chain configuration, code generation, everything. So this is the use of runtime setting and recording option. So now, as I have already given you a good idea about basic understanding on the tool, let's continue with our PTLC concept. Okay. We'll see on a paint. Let's see performance. System life cycle PTLC or PTLC. So now, what is the first phase? Risk assessment. This is the first concept, risk assessment. Next one is NFR gathering. NFR gathering. Third phase is test planning. Next phase is test scripting. Test run. Test run. Analysis. And the last phase is reporting. Reporting. So this is the phase of PTLC life cycle. We will see each and every what is risk assessment, what is NFR gathering, what is test planning, test scripting, test run and analysis, and reporting. Definitely, you'll have an idea about the PTLC life cycle. And I challenge like no other course they will be telling about this fundamental concept, because normally whenever you join as a fresher or a tester in PTLC life cycle, like in a company, you won't be involved in every phase like risk assessment, NFR gathering, test planning. You will be involved, I think, in test scripting, test run and analysis, and reporting sometimes and sometimes not. This phase, but you will majorly you will be in this phase. So risk assessment, and this phase you normally won't be involved. You will be involved in this phase, and this phase. So this is PTLC life cycle. Now we'll see each and every concept from starting. Events. PTLC life cycle. So let's start with PTLC life cycle. Performance testing life cycle is a systematic process to carry out the non-functional testing. Systematic approach to carry out non-NFT, non-functional testing. So under this thing, what are our major objective to test the software system or application by performing non-functional tests. Performing non-functional tests. So mostly all companies follow this approach to perform non-functional tests. And during this phase, during each phase, there will be reproducible documents, or whatever agenda is meet, they will produce particular document for that particular phase. Like you have phase like risk assessment, you'll have a risk assessment document. Then next you have NFR gathering, you will gather all the NFR and you'll get the NFR document. And next you have test planning, you'll prepare a test plan for that, test plan document for that. Next you will there is test scripting phase or test design phase. And there you whatever scenarios are mentioned in the test plan, you will be covering that particular test document in the, you will be performing and undergoing that particular scenarios as well and preparing the script for that particular scenarios. So for the next phase is you will run monitor and run the test like whatever it is mentioned whatever you had an agreement with client as a tester you will have a like what all tests you want to perform. So you will have an agreement like we'll be performing load test, soak test, endurance or stress test. So you'll undergo from load test, starting from load test till stress test. Whenever each and every test are success, it gives it do not it do not reproduce any bottlenecks or the response time under SLA. So everything, if you are achieved the constant TPS, then you will continue with other tests, other type of test. And next, once you do a test, you have to start reporting that particular thing so that your client, your stakeholders, everything they are aware of this particular test and all. So, what is the need for performance testing life cycle? Performance testing is a very important performance testing life cycle is and plays an important or a vital role in PTLC life cycle. Normally, they take all like whenever you start with risk assessment, what are the features or component it is very highly risk. So according to that, they will prepare a document for that. And what are the hardware, what are the software required for this type of testing, and how many resources you want, all will be covered. The purpose was to set up a smooth and a channelized process to achieve the performance testing goal. The purpose is to set up a smooth process to achieve the performance testing goal. So each phase of the process is independent, and in each phase there are set of activities to be performed. All the phases are bind to a single PTL, are bind to PTLC life cycle. So when I told you like all the phases are bind to a single life cycle, as so this all phases bind to one PTLC life cycle. So what are the advantages of PTLC life cycle? Like normally a client or a project team sets the expectation. They'll have some expectation about the application performance at the initial phase of PTLC and then compare the expected with the actual result of at the time of delivery. Stakeholders will have an expectation at the initial phase. Initial phase, and after the test is done, they will compare whether the expectation whether the expectation has been met or not. So at the time of the delivery, or the what all things we have a agreement between a tester and a client. And so all things we have to perform, and if all things are met, whatever it is mentioned in the test plan, then we'll get a sign off. Else we have to uh, talk with the client and undergo these activities until we get succeed. So performance testing lifecycle helps the application development companies to get the proper requirement from the client. Develop a tuned application. Our main objective is to develop a tuned application. We must not observe any kind of bottleneck in the production environment. So we are bug free, or performance, our application has a very good performance, then definitely our end customer will be satisfied by the application performance. We can even, we like in this performance testing, there are security testing, accessibility testing, compatibility testing. So this all type of testing, like an application undergo. And after all the testing, the our client expectation has been met. We this code has been deployed to the production, and now the real users or the customer start using this particular product. So tomorrow we'll continue for this particular every concept. So with this, I wrap up this class and hope you have a better understanding on what is PTLC and what are all the phases it is involved in PTLC. And we had a discussion about the basic understanding of